Hello, I wanted to talk about a game I had last weekend. It's probably my best win yet in a tournament game against an FM. William Schill and his rating on USCF in this tournament was 2235, and mine was quite a bit lower. My listed rating, USCF. So we got paired for the first round in a 4 round Swiss, and in a Swiss system for the first round. The higher rated players get paired against the lower rated players. So that's how this happened. And I ended up winning this game in kind of a crazy way, but there was some post game analysis I did that showed me I actually made several mistakes. And for whatever reason, he wasn't punishing my mistakes. So I was able to convert to a win in the end. And the game was the Smith Morra gambit, which I'm very fond of, and I play this pretty frequently against the Sicilian defense. There's a book written about it by Mark Esserman. I highly recommend Mayhem in the Morra. It's a great book, and it has a lot of lines that you might come across, including the declined lines. It's a very thorough book. It's very complete. He goes over almost every known that I could think of way, whether black accepts the gambit or declines it. So it's highly recommended, very thorough, very good book. Anyways, before I go completely through the game in my tournament, I wanted to uh, look at the game uh, in post game analysis with Mark. We actually went over it, and the line of defense that black played against me is actually turns out to be quite rare. And I even looked through the database and barely saw anybody playing this way. There's only a small number of games, but the way it's supposed to be played and the way I played against it, neither of those were correct. Um, this is the game given in the book uh, for how to fight against this type of defense when black plays d6 e6 going into a Najdorf defense, and white continues normal development so far, knight f6, and black doesn't play knight c6. It's one of the big differences. If black plays knight c6, bishop e7, that's a different line. But this was a more rare line. A6 first, stopping this knight b5 from going there and possibly harassing the queen later or something. So queen e2, a normal move. b5, another normal move. And then this is where things took a turn, and I so rarely faced this type of defense that I didn't really know exactly what to do. So knight bd7. So I understand why black plays this, because white will usually just play rook d1 to pin this pawn to the queen, but now this knight's here, so it's okay for black to move this pawn if e5 is played or something like that. So it kind of prevents this d pawn from getting pinned early on. But it does also create some kind of weakness, I felt. If knight d4 or g4, then these pawns are kind of vulnerable, because this bishop is now disconnected from the e pawn, and this f pawn is the only thing defending it. So there's possibility that white could maybe sacrifice here on e6. Like, say if knight d4 is played, and if uh, bishop b7, then there starts to be possibilities, maybe. But anyways, knight c5 is black's move here, and just threatening this bishop, and white doesn't want to give up this bishop so early on. Not in this way anyways, not just letting black take here, but he also doesn't want to play knight c2 because that kind of pacifies the bishop from its job. The bishop's job is, putting pressure on this diagonal. If bishop goes to c2, then it's not really doing much. It's just guarding these squares, and those aren't very important right now. So bishop d5 is actually the move here, and this is a move that happened also in a game I'll go over Fischer and Rubinetti, not in the Morra, but in a very similar type of game. Same kind of idea, bishop d5, counting on black taking here. And this is how that can go down if, black takes the bishop, check, the recapture, blocks check, knight, now the knight gets in, queen moves, and there's just all this pressure on this king. If black were to castle now, he'd be giving the piece back plus some, because white has such a strong attack here now that so many bad things can happen if black just castled right now. So instead, black plays knight g8, defending the bishop again, and white can attack it again, f6, and letting the bishop hang and attacking this knight, knight a4, knight e4, again sacrificing another piece. Black takes, and I think now the computer would probably say this is even though if you're just counting pieces, black is up 2 pieces, but white has compensation. I believe if I turn it on, it will even say, let's see here. Yeah, 0.0. So that shows that indeed white has compensation. If he's down 2 pieces, but it's 0.0, it means there's something going on. There's a big attack. So queen g4, wanting to trade queens, and instead white can sacrifice the queen, take that bishop, and then black's king can just... White probably has a forced draw here, I think, if he wanted one, but we don't play that way. We don't play for draws. So we just keep, this is the way it can happen. And what ends up happening is white ends up in a winning endgame with 2 knights versus 1 knight. And these pawns over here are weak. Yeah, it's just a winning endgame for white. So this is the, I'd say, correct way to play the line for white in the Morra gambit. The way I played it instead was different and not really correct because I made a couple of mistakes, but maybe a lot of players, even FMs or better, don't recognize right away how to punish those mistakes, because it's a lot to know. But I just developed normally because e6 and d6 is a Scheveningen defense. I was expecting a6, knight c6, knight f3, bishop e7, maybe queen c7. But this happened. And now I can't play really knight d5 because there's no piece after the recapture to gain tempo on here. So knight b7 and knight g5, which rook d1 or knight d4 was a better move here, according to the post-game analysis. But h6, the move here he should have played was just knight c5 to attack this bishop and force me to do something with it. h6, knight takes e6, f takes e6, bishop takes e6. So this diagonal's been blasted open now. I'm looking for a way to either capture or deflect this knight to somewhere else so that I can play queen h5 check and start attacking this king. So now he plays knight c5, which is, I think, a little too late, but bishop d5 is saying, okay, go ahead and take this bishop, which is a strong piece right now, and then I'll start, harassing your king, try to get it out to the middle of the board. So instead he played bishop b7, and now I played rook d1, which I don't think that was the correct move here either, but it ended up working out. He took it, I took, and probably he should have played king f7. I get the idea of why he played bishop e7, because he wants desperately to castle to get this king safe and to allow this rook to enter the game. And my whole idea is to prevent that. I don't want this rook, not yet anyways, coming into the game. So I saw my opportunity here. I just went in and took that knight. And after the recapture, now I can do this check. And again, I think maybe the better move here was, he moved the king up, but maybe it was better to just play king f8, or even king d7 maybe, because I don't have a light squared bishop on the board, and this way he could at least get this rook out to help. Bishop f4, and this was another blunder. He should have just taken here. There was no reason not to, that I could see anyways. Maybe he was thinking that if he takes here, then I'm going to pin the knight and win a piece back, but he didn't want to give the piece back, so I guess that's why he didn't take there. So instead he played knight e6, and now it's pretty much going to be over soon. Now the king is very weak, and it's not going to be able to find safety without giving material back. King f1 was maybe a little mistake here. I wanted to play king f1 because I wanted to start being able to play g3 and f4, because I was realizing that these squares are all controlled. This is the only escape square for the king, so I wanted to set up a mating net here. So I wanted to really play g3 and f4 and try to get a mate on this king and end the game as fast as possible. And we both still had over half hour left. This game went on for a while. The time control was 90 minutes plus a 5-second increment. So I played king f1, and now I have to do something. I can't just start doing this. He's forcing me to do some kind of exchange. Maybe he was thinking I would play queen d5 here, but then his king can get back and probably hide back here going this way. But I didn't want to allow that. It just did not want his king to get to safety. So rook c6, king e5, rook takes e6, and I'll get these two pieces for the rook. And now it's really tough for black, even though he has two rooks on an open board. I have these 6 pawns, and at least 2 of them will be able to pass I'm pretty sure. Yeah, and that's where black resigned, because there's no counterplay. This king can't get down here, because these squares are all controlled by the white pieces, and there's just no real counterplay. I'm just going to start marching these pawns up, and eventually coordination between these two rooks will have to break in order to stop the advance, or he'll have to give up one of the rooks, and either way, one of these pawns is going to promote, maybe two of them. Anyways, the other game I was looking at was Fischer and Rubinetti, which had some similar themes as the two games just previously showed. I think this was 1970. This is a mainline open Sicilian, and similar structure here. Knight on f6, not committing this knight yet, and a6, bishop b3, b5, and so a little bit different because this knight's already on d4 now, and white still has a c pawn. He didn't gambit the pawn. White castles, and bishop b7, and rook e1, and now knight bd7, and so now that bishop g5, h6, bishop h4, now knight c5, and then here's the crazy move where, where does this bishop go? He doesn't just want to let black capture it and then, retake with a knight or a pawn, and then either kind of mangle the pawns, or this knight is, a nice piece sitting here in the center of the board. So instead, Fischer plays bishop d5, recognizing that if it's taken, then this is check, and black will have some problems to deal with. So he went for it. Ex d5, king d7, b4, and that was a move I should have played in my game when the knight was on c5. That was one move I missed. Knight a4, knight takes a4, pawn takes, c4, queen takes, queen b3, yeah, and now this is threatening this fork here, so black has to respond to it. And that's where Rubinetti resigned, because he realizes pretty much dead lost here. You can't just run and take this with the rook, because there's a revealed attack on the king and winning this queen. Same story if king takes. So yeah, this is a good game for white. And there's also this threat of rook d1. Anyways, hope that's helpful. That's a line I'm still learning, still getting used to play this crazy way. I mean, it would take a lot of knowledge and guts to play this way, to just be down two pieces, but with a decent attack, and eventually sacrifice the queen. Anyways, let me know what you think of the game, and share any comments